Oh! Hi. Prijatelji moji, dobro veče i dobrodošli. Tonight za vas Orkestar Soko. Grab a drink, sit back and relax. We're about to begin. Just like that. Prijatelji moji, još jednom, ako ste se tek uključili, dobrodošli, jer ovo je početak. It is the beginning of the show. Sit back and relax. We are about to begin. We're going to take you back in time. Back in time. We're going to take it into a time capsule, and we should hopefully bring you back some great memories, lepe uspomene of your detinstvo. Prijatelji moji, with me tonight, joining me in one room, I don't think they're in Lyons, Illinois for some reason. But I'd like to go ahead and introduce them as Orkestar Soko from Lyons, Illinois. Prijatelji moji, dobro veče, dobrodošli guys. How are you?
Hi, everybody.
Great. How are you?
We're good.
All right, let's take a look and let's start doing introductions from the man in blue and my left. That is, I think, Grad Mihailovich.
Correct.
Go ahead. Let's go right down the line. Next.
Dog.
Doug Mihailovich.
Bravo. Next.
Alex Chulevich.
And last but not least,
Bobby Balatovich.
Bobby Volatovich, formerly known as Orkestar Soko.
Correct.
First, I want to thank you for joining me this evening. Hvala vam, od srca. I know it takes some time to get you all together. I know you guys are busy in your lives, but I think tonight will be a very great uspomena to all those that will be tuning in and following us here on Got Time. And we're going to start with Orkestar Soko. Orkestar Soko gets created, so to speak, in 1970.
72 or 73. We're not quite sure. I don't remember that far back.
That's right. That's right. It's a long time ago, isn't it? Right. So
Yeah, it sure was.
So let's talk about the originators of Orkestar Soko. Let's talk about how that begins and who are the originators here.
Hey, Spaz, we wanted to thank you first for doing this. Brings back a lot of memories for us. So the originators of the band were Nick Sudrum, Mike Sudrum, my brother Grad, and myself. And we started. We went to the same church, Svetiyo in Bellwood. We went to school together. We went to Costello grade school together, and then to high school together. So we knew each other first from church and then from school. And we all had an interest in music, and we it started out just by, I believe Nick played in the school band, and maybe Mike did also, and so we started, practicing a little bit, playing Serbian music a little bit, and we first started playing maybe at the church for after a program. Or for a program, just a couple numbers until we learned, more stuff and everything, and over the years. And then the band probably started actually playing here and there a little more when we were in high school. Probably like sophomore. I was probably a sophomore in high school, and Grad and Mike were a little bit younger.
Yeah, I mean, we were playing. We didn't have driver's licenses, I remember, and at that time, so Doug and Nick were about the same age. They were probably sophomores, and Mike and I were, I think, still in 8th grade when we started. And Mike and Nick Sudrum's dad, Branko, he was great. I mean, he used to drive us around. He had this station wagon with the paneling in the side, and and so we used to go. They lived about maybe a mile or two from us, so we used to walk over there and practice. And but he drove us everywhere, and really, he was kind of the booking manager for us in the beginning. And so he did a lot to get us small little performances here and there in the beginning, and that just helped us to get out there and for people to see us and to hear us. And So he did quite a bit as far as that's concerned.
When you guys started playing, were you guys doing English music first from school? Obviously, right?
We did kind of both. I remember the first thing that we ever played for. I think I was in 8th grade, 7th or 8th grade, and one of the kids from high school had a party, and we played at his house. And I think we knew like maybe 3 or 4 songs. And
American songs.
Yeah. And I still remember one of the first songs we ever played was House of the Rising Sun. So it was, that was.
And I think then Mike might have played guitar, and
correct.
Brad played drums.
I actually started playing drums in the beginning, and so Mike and Doug were on guitar, and Nick was on keyboards. So
Keyboards back then.
Keyboards, yeah.
Well, that's before its time, really, if you think about it, right? It was mostly an accordion sound, really, harmonica rather than a keyboard. But that's interesting to hear. Tell me, how did you guys come up with the name? How do you come up with the name Soko, guys?
Well, I'm not sure exactly who suggested the name or brought it up first or whatever, but we had my good friends of my parents, which was Božo and Čedo Pešaković. They were Pešaković brothers. They were called Orkestar Soko. And they were sort of like the Momaranković, probably a little before Momaranković, was playing. And so Božo played accordion, Čedo played drums, and they had, I think, a couple of other members occasionally play with them. So they retired and moved to Arizona to start a hotel business.
Mm-hmm.
And when we were coming up with the name, I think that sort of was nice and short and sweet. And my parents knew them really well. So I remember calling them and saying, is it okay? Because they weren't playing anymore. Is it okay if we use their name and just continue it? And that's sort of how I remember that we got the name.
Soko created, so in 72, 73, you now have a booking manager, Branko, who is the designated driver, right?
Yes.
For Orkestar Soko in the beginning. And where were your first gigs? You said the gigs were church events, folklore festivals, picnics. What was going on back then? Can you take us back into time a little bit?
Well, there were a lot of events. They would have folklore festivals, and the folklore groups would go on there, and then we would go up there and play a couple numbers. And then I remember, Momo Ranković would be playing somewhere, and while they are on break, we would say, "Hey, do you mind if we come up and play a couple songs while you guys are on break?" And they were really great. They would always let us go up there and just to get some experience and so people could hear us. But it was that type of stuff in the beginning. I like Doug said, I don't think we really play like weddings or full events till we were in high school and after that point in time.
So, Grad, Doug, let's talk a little bit about you guys. You were born here, or did you guys come on over from the old country?
We came over in 66.
Correct.
And I was like 11 years old, and Grad was 3 years younger than that. And came by my grandfather's house in Lyons, and we sort of lived all in one or two rooms for a little bit until we could afford till my dad bought a house and everything. And that's we just happened to go to the same school that right down the street, Costello Grade School, where Nick and Mike went, and first place my grandfather took us was to church. And so at church we would hear there would be a Sunday program, and after the program somebody would play Momaranković, and then later on it was Mlada Srbadija and so on. So we sort of liked what they were doing, and sort of that's what probably lit the fire under us.
Tell me, where are you? Where from? I'm under the impression Serbia proper. Where are you from?
From Bruce.
Bruce. Where is Bruce? If someone doesn't know.
Kruševac is the next bigger city. Bruce is pretty small. So it's Kopaonik is the largest mountain in Serbia. It's right at the foothills.
Got it. All right. So here you guys come. You're still young enough to adapt accordingly, right? But a little interesting note is, who else played in your family? Who played an instrument in your family, guys?
Well, my dad played accordion back in the old country, and so, he played Dugmetara accordion, and which my grandfather from here sent him, and he played for weddings and for events. While we were living out there. I mean, we were little kids, so we really didn't see a lot of that. But yeah, so he was an accordion player, and when he came here, he was working, and that kind of fell by the wayside. So,
well, I mean, there's got to be a smile on his face when his momsi started playing.
My grandfather sent him that accordion from Italy. He paid for it, and then it got delivered from Italy in 1956, and he still has it. So it hasn't been opened up in probably 10 years. So it probably doesn't play very well, but he still has it.
It becomes a family heirloom at this
Yes.
point. Right? So tak ko treba. All right. So Soko comes around in 72 or 73, whatever, whatever you decide. And the bands already on the scene at that time are Mlada Srbadija, Mo Moranković. Any other bands that you could, off the top of your head? I know there was a band from Milwaukee. Also, there were some bands up there at that time. Care to elaborate on that?
Yeah, there were a couple bands from Milwaukee and
Verbas, huh?
I think it was, Verbas, and one of the band members, Branko Gnjatović, was a guitar player and a singer. I think had a big influence on us, especially on the Zabavne Serbian songs that we ended up playing later on. So he was a big influence as well. And like I mentioned, Mo Maranković, great guy. He would always encourage us and let us on stage when they took breaks. And of course, so we kind of took a little bit from each band. We took some stuff from Mlada Srbadija that they were doing, and some stuff from Mo Maranković. When Alex joined us later on, we tried to copy some of their stuff with the two accordions and stuff like that. So, a bunch of different influences as we grew up.
Tell me, so that's the initial band, right? You four. And how does the sastav or the composition of the band change? When does it change to? When does Alex Chulovic or whoever's next join the group? And how does that take place?
Well, I believe like around when we graduated high school, Nick and I think Nick, I think around that time moved to, I believe, Arkansas. And then so we needed somebody else to fill in, and Alex came into the picture, and maybe he can fill you in on how that happened when around
probably
75.
1976,
maybe
I think.
76,
Yeah.
76. Yeah.
Up to that point, what would you say was your biggest event? Up to that first sastav, right? What would you think? What was the biggest event that you guys had in Orkestar Soko 1.0?
There was quite a few things. We played for a lot of Tretnik events. Chica Branco was a big, he knew a lot of people. He was, a former Tretnik himself, and very nice guy that booked all these things. So we played at I believe at the Congress Hotel downtown for a few events, and another one we went and played a Soko Fest up in Minnesota,
Minneapolis.
Minneapolis, yeah. That was probably one of the bigger things we played, with that group of people.
All right, so here comes 1976. Is that what we just said?
Yep.
Can we believe we just said 1976?
Yep.
So 1976 comes, and now we're talking about a Orkestar Soko 2.0. What happens at this point in Orkestar Soko's history?
Alex, you want to talk about that?
So I come in, and I have been an accordion player since age 5. So I come in 76, already having the experience since then for approximately 17 years. Okay.
Alex, before you come in 1 second, right? So tell me about you. Tell me about your history in playing. Where were you born?
I was born in Chi-Town, Illinois. Chicago, Illinois, in 59. So it's already been a long time. Okay.
And what parish did you belong to?
I was at the old Schiller Street Parish, which was open back then. And then after Schiller Street had shut down, I was at Redwood Drive.
Got it. And I got to throw this picture in because this shows that it wasn't really age 5. What age was this?
That's really age 2 in 61.
That, ladies and gentlemen, is Alex Chulovic. Sa harmonika uruci. It doesn't change much, my friend. I'll tell you, believe it or not. So there you go. Harmonika uruci. And how do you know Doug and Grad? And how do you know Soko? Did you know that they existed, obviously, because they were playing here and there?
Right. So I was asked to accompany a folklore in Cicero at a high school there, and I said, "Fine, I will be able to do that, but all by myself, it's kind of hard." So I was asking anybody in the area, is there anybody else that can help me out in the accompaniment? And my cum introduced me to the Mikhailoviches, and I walked into their house and I explained everything that I was interested to do. I picked up the accordion and showed them what I knew, and ever since then we've been all on the same page.
All right, so you come into the band.
Yes.
You obviously have been accepted. And what's your first gig? Where do you guys play together for the first time?
So August of '76, we played Youth Day, which was a huge annual event.
Okay,
Libertyville, Illinois.
Libertyville.
At St. Sabas. That's correct.
All right, so I have a couple pictures. Let me just make sure that these are the ones. Is this one from Youth Day or no?
No,
Can I see that one?
no, that's Soko 1.0, as you
There we
call
go.
it. So that's with Nick and Mike, and that's probably in Libertyville. I want to guess probably 75, approximately. I mean, we didn't have a date when that picture was taken, so we're just guessing.
Sure. All right, so that's Orkestar Soko 1.0 right there. And I have this picture, and I know it's from the Youth Day. It goes something like this.
Yeah.
Is this the same time frame, Alex? Is this right?
I believe it's a little bit after Youth Day.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm trying to get closer in pictures here, right? These pictures are amazing. I can't believe we got them. All right. So Youth Day comes, and that's a big thing. I remember talking to Mihailovich about it. Everybody was talking about how Youth Day was the big thing, right? Picnics were hot. This is the place to be. Who got you guys the gig?
Yeah, I don't remember.
We don't know.
You know,
It
it was probably, I think Chica Branco was still our booking manager.
Yeah, that was
Because Mike was still with us as the drummer,
Mhm.
and so his dad was involved pretty much, until Mike left the band later on. So it was probably him, but to be honest with you, I don't remember, because there were some jobs that he would book for us, and there were some jobs that we would get, but it was probably him.
So you're playing at the same time the legendary Mihailovich is playing, right? And as we're moving into 1976, Mr. Trulovich, you joined the group here.
Yes.
You've enhanced them, and now we're moving into 77, 78, roughly 1977, 1978. Mihailovich does come to an end. With the interview, we found out that people were going to California and whatnot, and they come to an end. Does that open the door now? Or, how many more bands are on the scene in Chicago, right? At that time, it's you guys, it's Mihailovich, it's Momo Rankovic, who's always been mentioned, right?
Yeah, Mlados.
Mladost, right?
Mladost was there.
Yeah,
Mladost. So there's a handful of bands, but with Mihailovich leaving, now market share is open.
Yeah,
to all.
yeah. They were probably one of the biggest influences on us as far as the type of sound. It was a little more progressive, a lot more rhythm. Drums, bass, and so on. So we, kids were really, digging that kind of sound, and it really just made it for an exciting, call. So we sort of gravitated to that kind of style of music.
So everybody has a style, everybody has a sound, right? And one of the things that your colleagues say about you guys is Soko had a very clean sound. Now, what they meant, I think, was, everybody, Mihailovich had their own sound, Mladost had their own sound, United Serbs had their own sound, Momo Rankovic, I'm sure, had his own sound. But you guys came out probably, from what I'm gathering, most closest to the original. Would you agree with that?
Well, I don't know. I know we did practice a lot, and that's what it takes. It's practice, practice, practice. And, you could have the best equipment, you could have, the best accordion or whatever, but if you don't spend the time and keep going over the songs. And back then it was, you pick up a 45, put it on a record player and listen to it over and over again. And then I remember we used to practice individually, and then every Friday we would practice together as a band, especially later on when we were in college. Even while we were in college, every Friday night was practice. And that was just to keep up with the music that we knew. And then also we had to learn new music constantly, so things don't get old. So you're introducing a new song or two, every couple of jobs that you play, you have to introduce new material.
How long were your practices, Grant?
Anywhere from 2 to 4 hours. Yeah.
Alex is nodding his head. 2 to 4 hours.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was. It was interesting, because I think our style was specifically, it's geared towards understanding what the person we had heard on the 45 was actually playing, because we didn't have internet, we didn't have the notes back then, so it's playing the song over and over until it sounded perfect. Okay, so without that, we were not satisfied. So all those hours on Fridays were dedicated to having songs and colos sound as close to the original as possible.
Well, I mean, that practice must have made you guys play better together, right? Just you knew the cuts, you knew you guys were synced better, were you not?
Absolutely.
Right, and I think that's what it takes to make a band sound as clean as you guys were known as. Now, back in the 70s, we all know that there was this thing we call the split. What we refer to the split of the Serbian Orthodox Church and its people on this continent. Tell me, at this time and up to 1977, most of those your gigs were played at Rascal parishes, guys?
Correct. Yes.
And that's probably because of the fact that you did belong to Sveti Jovan from Bellwood. Is that also correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
So here comes Alex Trulovic, North Sider from Schiller Street, Redwood Drive, Federalac. And how does that play a role in your decision to bring him on?
Absolutely not. I mean, to us, it had no bearing whatsoever. That was something that the older generation, I think, held on to. We didn't ask him what church he went to. We just heard him audition for us, play what he knew. And we're like, hey, this guy's pretty good. I think he'll fit in. And we pretty much took him on right on the spot. So, didn't matter to us either way. But later on, that kind of all came to an end, as you know.
Follow Dobrom Bogu. Good. Yeah. So April 1977 rolls around, and here it is. There's a wedding you guys do. And from what I understand, it's the first Fed wedding. Anybody want to elaborate on that a little bit?
Well, I'm just trying to remember if Mike was still with us at that point in time, or George. Yeah. So just before we get there, I think Mike Sudrum left the band just prior to that, maybe in 1978 approximately.
Okay.
And then George Mihailovich joined the band at that point in time, and then we were invited to play for Nick Turillo's wedding at St. Elia in Cherville.
Yeah.
Maryville.
That was our first first
Maryville,
job,
yeah.
on the other side.
How did that go? How did that first event? Any, what was the feedback? Alex, did you know most of the people that were there anyway because of?
Yes, I did. And I think it was extraordinary to actually see that happening, because up until then we didn't ever play at a large hall like St. Eli's, as an example, okay, where this wedding took place. So after we had played our first set there for the wedding, I can see all these people, older people, on the stage in the end section of the hall there, and all of them asking, "Who are you guys? Where did you come from? I want to book you now." Okay, and from that night, we probably got, just in that night, anywhere from 5 to 7 opportunities to play at St. Elias and St. George's in Cherville by all of the organizers there.
So you're playing Nick Torello's wedding. You got quite a few bookings after that wedding, right? You have been now exposed to a completely new audience, right? And tell me what happens. How does that evolve? Where do you see bookings pick up? Private? Zabav at picnics? Where do you see the biggest jump at that point when you guys were finally exposed to the other side?
Pretty much all of it. You know, we just got a lot more weddings. A lot of our bookings basically more than doubled, because just there was, just right there was two big parishes, and then Redwood Drive, and and then I think by then, probably Mlada Srbadija started this trend even before we did, because Nick Trilo was from Sveti Ilija, and the other guys of the band were from Sveti Sava. And so when Nick joined the band, they sort of started playing, both sides. And, we said, they really weren't getting any resistance or whatever like that. So we decided to do it. For us, it was just about the music. So
tell me real quick, your repertoire, right? Your repertoire. So you guys played Serbian Narodne Kole, right? You did Zabavne Ballade, American rock, and slow songs as well, on top of that. And I know that was a huge attraction, but did you guys do that early on from the beginning, or did that slowly take shape after 1976, after Alex Chulovic had joined the group and whatnot? How does that play a role? Do you guys play English early on?
We did a little bit because even at the beginning, Nick and Mike really Nick even played sax a little bit, and so and he loved rock and roll, and so we did a little bit. But when Alex joined the band, he played accordion with Grad, but then he decided to take up the bass because we needed a little more rhythm. And the ability to play also some of the more American stuff. I mean, you needed bass. And so once that all took shape, I think it really sort of focused the band, and we were able to do a lot more material.
What Alex brought to the table, because he could play accordion and bass. So when we did some really traditional colos that required 2 accordions for it to sound the way it should sound, that's what we did. And then when we wanted to do more of a Mlada Srbadija sound, then he would switch over to bass, and we could get that sound. So we had that flexibility of either playing very traditional music or picking it up a little bit and getting more of the rhythm section involved.
So group demographic has expanded. The gigs have increased, and now all of a sudden I hear a rumor that Orkestar Soko went to Springfield, Illinois. Can somebody tell me about what Serbs are in Springfield?
Well, it wasn't, sir. It was Illinois State Fair. At that point in time, we were also playing music for Nikola Tesla Folklore Group, which was organized in Bellwood. They were from Bellwood. They practiced at the Bellwood Church Hall. And so we played all of their music. And so we got the opportunity to go with them. They performed as well as we did. at the Illinois State Fair, which was just amazing. Thousands of people there. And after our performance, we met Governor Walker's son, who had a birthday party that evening and invited us to the party and to also perform for the guests at the governor's mansion in the Illinois building or the Springfield. So that was pretty cool. And
Yes, the infamous Governor Walker,
Walker, yes.
another imprisoned Illinois governor.
Yeah.
Just
Weren't they all, or most of them?
All right, so you play at this event. Things are going great. 1977, 78 rolls in. Tell me, at this point, what are the big events? At this point, are you doing? I know you guys played diocese and SNF tournaments, right? Was this that early on, or did that come a little bit later?
I think it came after 78 because we then also had the opportunity to play at SNF.
Got it.
The functions, the tournaments, in addition to the diocese tournaments,
Right.
which at that time were still separated. Okay.
Remember, was the SNF one a little bit bigger than the diocese one, or were they kind of the same along the lines?
I think the SNF was a lot larger back then, and the halls that it was usually at were the larger halls. So the Indiana halls, the St. Sava Hall in Wisconsin, and each year it would alternate somewhere else.
Tell me, you guys now are getting calls. How in 77, 78, how far in advance are you booked?
Well, we're booked probably 10, 12 months in advance for weddings and for, we were, other than, when there's post and, there's no dances or weddings or whatever.
It seems to be all the time nowadays.
But other than that, we were playing every Saturday and Sunday, sometimes Friday night as well. And I think we were all in college at that point in time. And, it was great because you could pay your way through college by playing weekends.
Is that awesome?
It wasn't easy because we would play sometimes practice Friday, play Saturday and Sunday, and then it would take you till about Wednesday to really wake up and catch up on sleep. And then we'd have to come back home on Friday and do the same thing again. So
the weddings are coming. Tell me, what is the largest wedding you've ever played?
Well, it was in Indiana at St. Sava's for this. It was for the Steinovich family.
Okay.
And I remember that wedding. It was anywhere from 1,100 to 1,200 guests in the evening at that hall. It was a 2-seating event where individuals would eat and then other people would come and eat. And everybody in the party was on the stage. The bridal party probably had 40 people. Okay. And the challenge was to actually put the orchestra somewhere where everybody can hear them. So at St. Sava's, they decided to put us up on the second floor in the balcony. And we had that perfect view of everybody underneath us. And it was probably the only time we had an opportunity to do that.
Now, what is
very challenging to get the sound right when you're, 20, 30 feet above the crowd. So I remember that was just really hard to get the acoustics halfway decent, but plus the noise of that many people, that was quite an experience. So
now you know how it is for us DJs who are up on the second level, huh?
Right. That's right.
Tell me, you're talking about sound and sound issues. Tell me about this wedding cake situation that happened at a wedding in Cleveland, please. You got to share the story because people want to know this story.
Well, so I caused that, so I'll talk about it. Okay?
Talking about sound here, right?
Talking about sound.
I think it's the first time he's ever admitted that he caused it.
So we are in Cleveland, Ohio, at a hall that was not a church hall, as I recall. And we are testing our sound. We are testing our accordions, our drums, our bass guitar, our instruments, microphones. So I'm testing my bass guitar, which I played, and I hit this low note, and I can't remember if it was an F or an E. Anyway, it was the low note on the bass. The minute I hit that low note, the cake, the wedding cake, which was in the center of the hall, just toppled down.
It was like probably like 4 or 5 tiers. I mean,
It just went totally down.
huge cake.
Oh man.
So, and Alex kind of hid behind the curtain.
Yeah. So I put down the guitar and I walked away, and I see the cookies coming out. He's trying to put it back together. He's holding his head. He don't know what happened, and I don't know either. Right?
Svi se pravimo ludi.
Coincidence, right?
Right.
I think they just cut it in the back and served it.
That's what happened, right? There was no like cutting of the cake.
Right.
Alex did the cutting of the cake for them. Pretty much.
I did.
But I'm glad that you finally, after many, many years, admitted to the story live on Facebook here. It took that many years to get it out of you, Alex. Tell me about an Mihailovich wedding and a scoop.
Want to talk about that, or do you want me to take that? All right, I guess I'll talk about this one too.
One more wedding story. Let him hear about it. Go ahead. Kosmovich.
So it was in Indiana, and we ended up entering the house of the bride. And as soon as we are coming in with our instruments, the father of the bride says, "Muzika, muzika, doshla." He comes outside in a top of the tux, and on the bottom, all he has on is boxers, shorts. He doesn't have any pants on. He takes his shotgun in the front and he starts shooting it off in boxers. And we're going, what kind of house is this? You know, it's like scary, right?
Muzika stigla, huh?
Yeah. He was very happy, and
we thought
it was very
he was
funny.
going to shoot us.
What'd you say, Doug?
We thought he was going to shoot us. I
I'm
just
glad you
remember I couldn't hear for 20 minutes afterwards because it was so loud, like close to your ear.
Oh no! Boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
You know, so you guys had many events, multiple double events, right? Summers were probably strong. Saint Saba, Hobart, Saint Svetisimel and 114th, street picnics, weddings, christenings too. Yeah,
we played some. Other things I just wanted to highlight. We had played a lot of the soccer events too. Yes, White Eagle Soccer in Indiana would call us every year for their tournament, as well as the dance on Christmas.
American Christmas or ours?
Our Christmas.
Nasz Božić.
Yes.
So all these bookings, you were able to say no when certain people called, and you were able to say no based on principle. Tell me a little bit about that. Tell me who were you able, or who did you say no to when they did call? I think that's a very important piece that needs to be recognized here.
I'll take this one. Okay. It was, well, obviously at that time, the communists were still out there. Okay. There were clubs, there were TV events and channels and dances that were sponsored by those people. And I will tell you that we got calls for them to play for any price we had wanted, only so that they could have excellent entertainment for that event. We always had explained to them we can't play for that, and anytime they did not understand, we told them we are already occupied for that day. So we did not want to cross that border and play for the communists and the Serbian church at the same time. It was very important to us to actually stay as Serbs in the Orthodox faith.
That was, I'm sure, also very problematic back in those days, right? Especially with Tito still being alive. And
yes.
What do you call UDBA? Is that what they were called?
UDBA, yes. And UDBA was here in the 70s and 80s.
Wow. But did anybody ever cause you a problem for declining their event?
No,
Never felt the pressure to do so? No?
no.
Follow vocal. All right. So you're able, your bookings are there, you're playing left and right. You guys are, tell me how different was the scene back there, back then when it came to Zabavas and picnics as opposed to today, maybe?
Well, it was quite different. I mean, there would you would play a picnic, and there would be just an average picnic. You'd have 300-400 people show up. So. But what I'd like to do, if you don't mind, I wanted to get Bobby here in a little bit because he's like falling asleep over here on the side.
Oh,
But-
when we get to the 80s, then
But,
I'll have plenty to say.
But like we said, George was with us, and I think George left in 81.
Right around 81.
81.
81.
And then for a couple of years, we had Mike Stishevich played drum with us.
Mhm.
And then Bobby joined the band, I think, in 83. And that just, Bobby brought a whole new aspect to the band. First of all, with vocals, with, being able to help us with the American songs. As well as just his, drumming abilities. So that was probably, for those last 4 years that we played, was probably when we were at our best. When
That
we
would be
had-
your peak, Grad?
that would be our peak, absolutely, for sure. I mean, we were all maturing, learning stuff, and but it would just, everything just, when Bobby joined, everything just clicked. And between him and Alex and Doug and just everything was coming together, and I think that was our peak, absolutely, for sure.
So you mentioned George Mihailovich for a second. I want to go ahead and put him up on the screen for 1 second so people see. Is this George Mihailovich there?
That
And you
is-
guys-
Yes, that's George with the little drumstick in his hand there.
Tell me a little bit about this picture. Anybody want to take the lead on that?
I think that's Svetisava in Hobart. I'm not sure what the event was or whatever, but that's probably, maybe a year after George joined us.
Mhm.
And, he was a very good drummer, really good kid. His dad was a great guy. He, was a big cheerleader for us and everything. And, championed us getting bookings in South Chicago and stuff like that. So,
I know the United Serbs went through 9 drummers. Mladost, or was it Mladost that went through multiple guitar players, right? Guitarist. It's 7 guitar players or something like that.
Yes.
Tell me how many drummers and guitar players, or drummers, I should say, did you guys go through here?
Well, 4. We've had 4 drummers,
Only 4.
and so there's got to be something about drummers. I don't know what it is, but it's
Only 4. That's not a lot.
it's not a lot.
there's just one thing I want to say. When Bobby joined the band, sort of the intention was that we were going to do a lot more American stuff and actually play like all American weddings, and that's what he really wanted to, because he was playing with Mladost for quite a while, and then we were playing all the Serbian stuff for a long time, and so it really wasn't quite as much of a challenge like the American stuff was to us. So we were like, okay, and we really liked playing weddings because it was just more organized, more, the money's better, obviously, and all that kind of stuff. But but because we had, and we practiced quite a bit, we learned quite a few American songs and everything, but, and we did play, 4 or 5, like all American weddings. But I remember right after Bobby joined, we played a wedding right here at the Hyatt Hotel in Oak Brook, for a small wedding party. It was great, 4 sets of, 45 minutes, all American songs and, a few polkas and kind of things like that. But because we still had so many bookings on the Serbian side, we were never really able to just switch over to just playing American stuff because the demand was still there, and the crowds were great and everything. So we sort of did a little bit of both, but still mainly Serbian.
Tell me, did you have a lot of mixed marriages back then? Was that the case back in the day?
Well, it was starting to get like that. So, I don't know what percentage were mixed weddings, but probably 30% at that point in time that we played for. And I think that was one reason we were able to get a lot of weddings, because we could play. They didn't have to hire two bands. They could just hire us, and we could, do, entertain everybody for the evening. So
here comes Bobby Balatovich.
Yeah,
the quiet guy right there in the white shirt. Mr. Balatovich, let me tell us again. I know you had an interview with Mladost. You've played with multiple bands. That seems to be a common denominator with a lot of guys here. And I smile because I didn't realize how intertwined everybody was. Bobby, tell me a little bit about yourself and let people know, in case this is their first time joining us, where are you from? Where were you born?
I was born in Chicago, originally on the north side. Eventually, I got married. We moved to Indiana. I have a wife, 2 daughters, and 2 grandkids.
Wow. Time flies, huh?
When you're having fun.
So, Bobby, tell us a little bit about, first of all, there's some history there. Let's talk about Bobby Balatovich's father. Very recognized Serb here in the Chicago metropolitan area, if not nationwide. Bobby, tell me a little bit about your dad, will you, please?
Yes, my father, Mihailovich Balatović, he started the first Serbian radio program in the United States, in America.
Right. And did he play any instruments, or did he just do the radio?
Accordion.
Harmonikas, bravo. So
before that, he was a singer. He would go to Detroit and sing for stuff and sing and play for stuff.
And what I found fascinating, because I found out this during the Mladost interview, was you were born here, but so was your dad.
Yes.
Your dad was born in the United States. What year was your dad born, buddy?
1917.
1917.
Maybe it was 15. I think it's 15.
I mean, you're within 2 years. You're good to go.
9:15. Yeah.
So your father was here, started the first Serbian radio.
Well, he went back to Yugoslavia because my grandfather was called back to fight.
Oh, wow.
He went back to fight.
Okay. See, that's something I didn't know. So here you go. You're born in Chicago, and growing up, are you playing any instruments, Bobby?
Piano that I really didn't like. And I like drums, so I started playing piano.
At what age do you think? How did that all develop?
Probably 11 or 12.
So you were obviously forced to play the piano, right?
Yes.
Mama or Tata? Who did the forcing?
Tata.
Tata. And then, how do you transition?
Just to tell me, if you could play piano and you could play any instrument you want, and it wasn't until I was way older and way wiser that I realized how smart he really was. That's true.
That's awesome to hear. So you're now 12, 13 when the transition happens to drums?
Well, yeah, I was always interested in drums. I used to play kitchen chairs with drumsticks.
Okay. And how do you start playing in a band? How do you start playing? What are your first steps into a band?
First steps was really an American garage band, right?
Okay.
Just trying to, play Stairway to Heaven and all, Deep Purple and Smoke on the Water and stuff like that. And then eventually I was at what would have been Chanisa, right down Grays Lake, when they just had what is it, the dome or whatever,
a barn.
The barn, yeah, they just had the barn.
Yeah.
Sure.
And Duško Trajković and Milan Vesmar were there. And Duško, I guess, just got back from the army. They wanted him to play, and they said, well, they didn't have a drummer. And then somebody said, well, this kid plays drums. And so that was the first time we played together.
What parish did you come out of? One more time?
St. Stephen's.
Stefan Detronsky on what we call Leland Street.
Leland.
Right.
Yeah.
So you start playing with Mladost.
Yep.
Was there an audition to go into Mladost?
I guess that Grčanica thing was.
All right.
They had some problems. They needed a guitar player and a drummer because they had a wedding and they were forced, and I was playing with Milo Stevanovic at the time.
Mhm.
So,
Who, by the way, is with us this evening, by the way, just so you know.
hi Milo.
Hi, Milo.
All right, go ahead.
And so we just, they offered us to go and play at the White Eagle. They had a wedding and they were stuck. So we said, yeah.
You're in.
Play. Yeah.
How long were you with Mladost, my friend?
I don't know. I don't know.
Okay. And how does this now connection start with Orkestar Soko?
So they asked me to come and play, I think twice, right?
Mhm.
The first time I, just because of my father and everything that was going on, it wasn't, my mom felt it wasn't a good idea for me to go play because they were playing on the Fed side and it wasn't the right time for me to do that.
Okay.
And then they waited a little while longer and asked again. And then it was a great opportunity because I got to go and join a well-oiled machine that was ready to go. There was, every band that I started with, we started at the bottom and started, to learn this. At this time, I could just go in and they're like, these are the songs. And I was like, okay, let's go.
So Bobby Balatovich joins Orkestar Soko in 1983, and this is the final, what we call sastav, composition of Orkestar Soko, right?
Correct.
That's
And
correct.
now we're going into prime time, right, Greg?
Yes, absolutely.
Tell me what changes and how does this sound now develop, right? Bobby's saying that you guys are a well-oiled machine. You guys are good, and is he that puzzle piece that just fits perfectly?
It just makes it even better, so it was when you have somebody that can just keep the rhythm, it makes everybody else's job easier, makes my job as an accordion player easier, and I don't have to adjust what I'm doing. So it was just all the pieces fit together, and the sound was really, I don't know what you guys think, but I thought the sound was our best sound at that point in time. And like I said, he brought more things to the table with his vocals, so we could do a lot of other stuff, like some Lionel Richie songs and some Prince.
And just to clarify, we're just to be clear, Mladost, for example, played a combo of taking a Serbian song, mixing an English song in, and then going right back into Serbian. The United Serbs just played tapes during breaks. They didn't play English. You guys stopped and played a separate English song. There was no mix. Is that correct?
Right.
Right. Yeah. I had a keyboard, so I would just put my accordion down, get on the keyboard. These guys were on their instruments anyway, and we would just switch over and start playing American songs. So
let me share a picture of the once upon a time young Bobby Balatovich and company right there on the screen, ladies and gentlemen. Look at that. There they are. Equipa. Grant on the accordion, right?
Yep.
Bobby Balatovich on the drums. Doug and Alex, you're playing bass here?
Yes, I am.
Man, you guys are multi-talented. Tell me about this picture, guys. What is this from? This is during George's, or is that, who's the drummer in the back there?
that's George.
That's George.
It is George. Where was this picture taken?
It looks like at St. Sava's in Indiana.
And tell me about I like the next one. I really like the next one. Some of them, these are unbelievable memories, and I'm glad, and I thank you for sharing them with us and everybody that's watching us. Here we go. Doug, you know these guys?
Oh my God.
That's an oldie with the hippie van in the back. That actually
Was that your vehicle that you guys took the equipment around?
yeah, but you know what, when we got that, I still didn't have my driver's license, so I remember that was probably 72, 73, and my dad bought us that so we can fit our equipment in there when we went to play, but I couldn't drive. Grad didn't have a license. The picture might be a little bit after that, but when we first got it, so my mom, who barely knew how to drive, she would drive us to like not Gračanica, but Bratska Pomoć. I remember we almost flipped that thing on the ramp exiting to go off of 294 onto 32.
Well, on top of it, it was a stick shift.
Yeah.
So it was, yeah.
How long did you guys have that car?
Probably around 10 years. I mean, we had it for quite a while. I mean, we went all over the place with that.
So if I could add something, Spaz,
Yeah.
I think that you just had that picture up. The other thing I want to point out, in addition to the car, obviously, is that the orchestra people, ourselves included, in other bands back in that age, we did not show up to our events with T-shirts and jeans and whatnot. We had to have our best stuff on every single time.
Okay.
And it's not just us. The
polyester
audience,
suits,
the polyester suits, the jumpsuits, everything else, but the audience, the people would go to the store on a Saturday or a Friday and buy something for the Saturday dance. It was a dress or it was a suit. It was a whole other. I don't know what I want to say exactly, but it was a whole other timeline where everybody had pride in what they had on for every single thing.
Tell me, as far as sound, as now Bobby comes in, right? It's a little bit more powerful. I think, Bobby, you're a power drummer, right? Yes, no? Compared to what you guys had before?
Okay.
I'm just asking. I'm trying to get some clarification. It's still a clearer sound, but it just seems to be a little bit.
I just brought a little bit more energy. I was more into
he was very loud.
And yeah, okay.
I still can't hear out of this area.
And I was the guy who wanted to do stuff. Let's do this song. Let's do this song. At that point in time, these guys are all established already, right? So
Right.
Red's got his business. He's trying to get his business going. Doug's got a new business. He's trying to get a business going. Alex is working. I'm still in school. So I'm like, hey, let's do this and let's do that. And I'm hanging out at Grad's place every afternoon. And he's looking at me going, dude, anything else? Grad used to support me. He used to send me on trips to give tickets to people instead of paying FedEx. He
was my delivery service.
He would call me, which I appreciate. I mean, he was just trying to help me out because during post, right, there was nothing.
There was no Amazon.
Right.
So it was nice.
Tell me, as far as sound systems go, 71 to 87 is a long time. Did you guys keep upgrading with the sound or
Yeah, we constantly
were you forced to, in essence, if bigger events, picnics, or more events? Tell me, how did that work?
I don't know if we were forced to, but I think we just enjoyed having good equipment that we can, first of all, it had to be dependable. So like, there's nothing worse than you get someplace to a job and you do a sound check and something's like breaks. And then, one thing goes wrong, the whole thing is a mess. So we always try to have like good equipment. And obviously we had to play pretty loud because these events were, you're covering 300 to 500, 600 people. So it had to be loud and clean and, not cause a lot of feedback and issues like that. So we constantly upgraded our stuff, and we sort of, I think, enjoyed doing that just to, make it sound good.
Well, obviously you need it to sound good if you're doing things like the Chetnik Zabava, the Nikola Kolar Zabavas that were huge for me in the late, in like even the early 90s. Nikola Kolar Zabava were known. It was, I think, the last Saturday in October.
He always took advantage of us because that's when the time change would go. So we're like, hey, it's midnight. That's it. We're heading out of here. No, he goes, no, it's not. It's only 11, right? So we get stuck playing an extra hour for him every time.
Nikola Kolar was a genius.
True story.
Yeah.
You played Peter Pavicevic Radio Hour. I don't know how those dances were. Valinka. Oh,
huge dances in South Chicago. 114th for his dance, which was held the first Saturday every year in November. It was jam packed. Unbelievable.
It was the week after the time change.
Correct.
The biggest problem with those was that the program was usually so long because, for instance, Kohler would get every singer that was singing in the Chicago area, and they would come and sing, for free. And then a lot of people would go to the kafana where they're singing afterwards. But it made the program sometimes 2 hours long. And then everybody, all the young kids especially, are itching to dance. And so, the dance sometimes didn't start until 11:30.
Oh, and what did you have an end time, or did it kind of go?
No, I usually went till 1:00 for his thing because, like Alex says, the time change, and then sometimes even a little longer. But the hall, for instance, at Redwood Drive, where that was held, they held it pretty strict because it's in a residential neighborhood. So they held it pretty strict. They had good management there and stuff, and they had a pretty strict rules as when it should end because they didn't want to get in trouble.
So, since we talk about these, you had a short time frame to play, and we're going to add our first comment of the night by Nanja. And she says, "You were always so gracious in playing to your audience without tips being your main driver. Thank you." Tell me about that. Did you guys not take tips?
Well, we did, especially at weddings, we'll take tips, especially from the father of the bride or, the immediate family, but we just didn't, if we're at a dance and the kids came there to dance, we weren't going to sit there and play for one or two people that had money in their pocket.
Sure.
We wanted to, entertain the crowd. And I think we knew kind of from the early on that if you entertain the kids, the younger people, you're going to get the crowds because they'll drive their parents crazy and they're like, we want to go to this dance, whatever. So where the older people were, sitting there, they were there more for the, some drinks, something to eat. The younger crowd was there to dance. And so that's, we every once in a while somebody would come up and ask for somebody, but usually at a Zabava, very rarely would we take a tip for something.
So also, Spaz, on that subject, our goal was to keep the people in the hall and dancing and listening. If we started to take these tips, individuals would start going outside or at the bar, or we didn't want to see that. We wanted that audience to stay in there and have fun with us.
You guys, when did you guys start leaving the Chicago metropolitan area? I know you guys have performed in multiple places, and that would include, I have it on the list here, 1 second. That'll include playing in outside of Illinois, Indiana, Wisconsin, which I expect you to play at, Ohio, Texas. Speaking of Ohio, Simo Petkovich was here also joining us this evening, just so you know.
Hi, brother.
Hey, Simo.
Texas, California. California, I understand. Hamilton, Canada, I understand that. Texas? Like, what did you call
Texas, we played 2 weddings down there, which were really interesting.
Okay.
But that was, I don't know how we got, it was Houston, but I don't remember how we got.
My wife, Vesna, her parents, they had friends from the time they were still in college in Belgrade. And these people moved to South Africa, and then eventually they came to Canada, and then they settled in Houston. And so they had 2 kids that got married. First, their daughter, and so they actually came up here to visit my in-laws, and I think they heard us play at a picnic or something like that, and then they said we have to have you guys play for the wedding. So they flew us down there. They put us up in a nice hotel, and just really great people. And then a number of years later, we played for their son's wedding.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So also wanted to add our California trip was with the choir from 114th Street, and it was way back in the 70s. I believe it was either 78 or 79, 78 probably, and it was a blast out there. It was such a fun time.
We'll go ahead and add Jovan Kagraga's comment. Was the California gig in San Diego late 70s or early 80s?
78 in the
78.
summer in San Diego. It was in June.
Actually, in Escondido.
Escondido. Yes.
I remember we ended up at the beach and George got really bad sunburn, so he had to go to the emergency room because he was just like burnt to a crisp.
Yeah, we played football on the beach for like, I don't know, like 6 hours, nobody wearing any kind of
In the
sunscreen
sand.
in the sand. And then some people really got really badly burned. So
Hi, Nada.
Now the Bodic says San Diego. Yes. Southern California. Tell me, as far as, you mentioned you guys working on your businesses. The only one that was still in school was Bobby, right? Bobby Balatovich.
Right.
Can you help me? Was this, so it might, I'm understanding that this was not your primary source of income, but it was still treated as a business. Yes. Tell me something about that.
Most definitely.
Yeah, I mean, when we were in college, it was our primary business because, that's all we could do on the weekends. But once we got out of college and started working and trying to develop our businesses, it became secondary income, but we still treated it, as a business very seriously. We, Doug at that point in time, Doug was keeping the books from after Branko Sudrum stopped, and Doug kind of took that over, and so we try to run it professionally as a business. We're serious about it, and
They still made me come to practice on Friday nights, and that's really the last thing I wanted to do on a Friday night.
So we're going to go back just a little bit. We have Nick Sujum commenting here, saying, as the original lead man of this band, it's great to see all of you. I remember a few more details from those early days that I personally enjoyed immensely. I could write a book probably about those days, starting with our lessons at Nell's Music in Peru.
yes, no,
Mr. Nell,
I will just finish out with
thanks
congrats.
for remembering, Mike.
I will just finish out with congrats, guys, on all of your accomplishments. I wish all the best to each and every one of you guys. To Chico Milorad, is it Milorad or is it maybe an error? Milorad, and his talent on playing the Dugmetera.
Yeah.
oh, that's my dad. Yeah,
Yeah, with the perfection that I remember. I must compliment it. It might have gone even more, but I don't have any more room here to get that. So that was Nick.
good to hear from you, Nick.
Hi,
Hope you're
brother.
well.
Thank you.
I also got, as we mentioned him a little bit earlier, Sima Petkovic is here, another colleague of yours. Hello, boys. I was at that wedding. That's the first time we met. Pozdrav from Cleveland.
Thank you.
Milo Stevanovic says, bravo, momci. Ne dajte se, znači ono. Držite se.
Thank you, Malo.
Going back in time, there we go. Danny Danilovich saying, good to see the four of you together. Great band.
Thanks, Danny.
Thank you.
Can't leave without another legend. His name is Vinko Mancic, as you guys well know. He goes, you guys rock. Vinko.
Wait, who's that?
Thank you, brother.
Vinko who?
Oh,
Vinko who? So now your peak is sitting. We're already in the mid 80s. Bobby's joined. We're there. When do you start playing with the Estrada? When do the singers come into the picture here, guys? And who have you played with? Because I know you've played with people. Can you enlighten us on who you've played with?
Well, that happened. It didn't start at any one point. I think it was even before Bobby played with us. We played with a number of people, and Alex can elaborate on. But a couple of them, I remember playing with Sune at I think it was a wedding, and it might have been a Pujar wedding. And I think he was from the same cello that the Pujars are from. And so he came here not expecting to have a band that can accompany him. He brought an acoustic guitar. But that guy was such a pro. I mean, it was so easy to follow him. It was incredible. And just a very nice man. He complimented us on following him and all that. So
what was amazing is we had no idea that he was going to sing that evening. or at least I didn't. I don't know if you guys did, but all of a sudden he walks out on stage, and I'm like, wow, what's going on here? So
What are we gonna do now?
yeah, what now? So, but he was really nice. He was a great guy. I mean, just that was one of, I think, highlights for us. I mean, just to be on the same stage with somebody of that talent, it was just incredible.
So who else do we play with?
So if I could add to this, we also entertained with Zoran Kalazic and Sava Radosinovic and a few svadbas. Actually followed them both. We followed your favorite singer, right, Spaz?
I'm smiling.
Mile Kitic at
Mile
Color's
Kitic.
band. When he didn't even sing these popular songs, he sang those old songs.
He had one hit
back
at that
then.
time.
He had one hit, and
What was the hit, do you know?
I'm sorry.
What was the hit?
I don't know the name of it. It was back in 77, so it was kind of early 77, 78
Mhm.
for Colors dance. But I do know that I knew that he was singing, so I went to practice and I had to learn his song. And he was amazed actually that an orchestra from Illinois who is not 100% Serbian born is able to actually follow him. And I want to do a shout out to my favorite singer, who's Mr. Branko Superfly Vasic from California. He used to sing with us everywhere, all throughout Indiana, throughout Illinois, and I just want to say hi to him if he's out there.
Do you
Go ahead.
want to tell him the story about Branko?
No,
Okay.
that's not it.
All right, we'll censor that right now.
Yeah.
Tell me,
Trifuno was another. Yes.
He
guy
was a
that-
fantastic singer. Yeah.
So well then, he sang with us for all the dances for color, for the techniques and so forth. So he was an excellent singer. He's got a lot of songs, and I have not seen him for quite a while, but in our age, he was very popular.
so just to know, ladies, if you didn't know, Mila Kitic's parents lived in Chicago in the early 80s, and was he living with them? He was here for a couple of years. Was that the time that he was living?
Yes, he was.
Right. So, believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen, yes, Mila Kitic lived in Chicago, and I want to make sure that everybody's aware of that. Chicago.
That's correct.
Did you ever have any difficulties with any of these guys? Estrada, kind of that, that. Yeah,
No, I can't say we did. We had our job to do. They had the job that they had to do and sing and chase the tips, or perform for a program setting. But all in all, everything was fine.
Tell me, as far as music goes, did you guys have a favorite genre that you like to play? I will start with Grad. We'll start with Grad again.
Yeah. I like playing all kinds of music. It just it's a matter of, like I said earlier, practicing so that you get it to a point as close as possible to the original. Whether it's a colo, whether it's zabavna, whether it's rock. I like classical music as well. So it's not the genre so much as the quality of the music that I really enjoy. So
Sure. Doug?
Pretty much the same for me. I like all sorts of music. Even from like listening to jazz, like on guitar and stuff like that. But like Brad said, as long as it sounds good, it's fun to play. So,
Mr. Tulovic?
So I also am into everything, but the specialty I like is our old school stuff from Serbia. It's all the old songs that I was able to actually play and learn and listen to. So I'm still old school there.
And Bobby Bulatovic.
I hate music, dude.
He was in it just to meet girls.
Well, actually, that was pretty much one of the big things with joining Soko.
I mean, there's a perk there, right?
I mean,
Right.
I was a DJ. I was very much into the club music,
Mhm.
club scene and serving stuff. It was all good to me. Everything was good.
I got a question, guys. There's a question by Danny Danilovich. Says, "Where did the Colo Dr. Pepper come from? Was that a Soko creation?"
That is not. That is a creation by Tommy Andreevich.
Got it.
Lada Serbadia.
Lada
It's in the key of C.
That's for all you musicians out there. Milo Stavanovich says, I saw Doug switch to a red Fender Strat, right? In the later era, midlife crisis. Most get sports cars. Anyway, welcome to the club.
Just one of them.
What does that mean, Doug?
I don't know. I sort of went through when I started playing again with Shumadia with Alex. I don't know. When we were younger, I mean, we didn't have money to splurge on, more than one guitar or whatever you got. Whatever most of our equipment was like some, the PA and stuff was new, but like guitars and stuff like that, usually we bought used. You find a great deal, but later on, I sort of just got into it a little bit more. My son also played guitar, and we've been through probably 10, 15 guitars, maybe 20 between the two of us. So
Wow.
it was just sort of something to do.
Doug had a new guitar like every couple of months. He would be, from a acoustic to, whatever. But a Gould, yeah, he even had a Gould.
Guys, when did you realize, was there any point that you guys thought, oh my God, we're the shit. We got our shit down. We are it. We are the band. Did that happen later in the 80s when you peaked, early 80s? Maybe after Bobby joined? Did that happen as Mlada said about the exit stage left? When do you think that happened? Did you guys have like an aha moment? I mean, you were booked, you were good, you were solid, but there's an aha moment, isn't there?
I don't think we ever really thought of ourselves like that. I mean, there was other bands out there that played. I mean, we knew we had a lot of bookings and stuff like that, but I think we just enjoyed with the four of us here, with Bobby, after we did rehearse at the beginning quite a bit, but it just came like to the point where like you almost didn't have to think about, everybody knew every cut, we wouldn't even have to look at each other. We knew when to end, how to end. So it was almost like no effort.
I just want to make sure.
Unlike that well-oiled machine.
Unlike Mladost, right, Bobby? From what I understand, unlike Mladost.
That was a whole different thing. That was a whole different thing because there was a lot of alcohol involved in that.
Hey, did you guys drink? Did you guys drink while you played?
Just me.
We would have a drink or two
Just
during
me,
the night, but no.
me.
I mean, there was no.
Brad, are you being PC here?
Just
No,
me.
not even Bobby. Bobby
Just
as
me.
well.
Bobby, you're the DC right? You're the youngest.
I was the youngest, right?
Yeah. It's right.
We had to watch him.
I think.
Go ahead.
I think, in all seriousness, on that subject, we all had alcohol and had fun, but we always had that responsibility for the audience, the organizer, and so forth, that we would not allow ourselves to go overboard.
Tell me, what was one of your most difficult gigs? Do you remember having a very difficult gig? Right. For example, mine was when my dad passed away. I was scheduled out of state, and it was for a folklore group. If it was for a Zhurka, I would have canceled it, but I didn't want to disappoint those kids in that group. It was out of state, and that was the most difficult. I felt it the most difficult show that I ever had, and I pushed through it. I steamrolled through it. Did you guys have a situation like that? Where it was just you couldn't play because either you were sick. Anybody ever absent maybe from a show because of illness?
No. All of us always played. I have a story that it's not the difficult part of it, but we played one time in East Chicago Harbor Church, where I think that they forgot to advertise the dance, and we actually showed up there, and I'm not kidding. We played one colo, got fully paid, and left. Okay, so for me, I wanted to see that audience out there. I mean, it was not our fault, certainly, but at the same time, in the back of your mind, you were saying now you got full pay for a half hour in setting up, an hour to get there, an hour to get home. So if you sit there and add up everything, it compensates the time. But that's something I recall from probably the late 70s. I would say it happened around 78, 79.
Well, Alex had another difficult performance in Cleveland, but I don't know if he wants to talk about it.
I do. I am not bashful. Okay.
Let's hear it.
So this was
Bobby's
before
dying
Bobby.
Already. Bobby is dying. I did the true him.
I wasn't even there. It's hilarious.
Before Bobby. So it was what, 78, 79?
Probably. I know it was a wedding.
No, it was at the church. Actually, Simo can answer this probably a lot better than we can. But they had a hunters dance in February every year.
Right.
So
They still do.
yeah, we had a singer from Chicago that came up here. Her name was Slavica, and she sang extremely well back then. But we decided to all go and buy the same clothes. So
Thank God I wasn't with them at this point.
right, we bought these corduroy jumpsuits with a vest and pants attached. Right, and at that time was kind of cool.
Well, that was the disco days, and Cool in the Gang and all these Casey and the Sunshine Band. They all wore those,
Yeah,
one piece
the
jumpsuits.
jumpsuits. Yeah,
So we thought, hey, we're going to be cool. And
Was the corduroy in the summer?
it was
No, no,
winter,
no.
summer.
It was
We
February.
only could afford once.
Yeah, it was February. So all of us got them on, right? And we're playing. All of a
They were
sudden,
tight.
yeah. All of a sudden, I drop something, and I bend over to pick it up, and my pants rip right down the middle, all the way through. So now, the singer offers to sew my pants, and I'm like, "What are you talking about?" She goes, "I'll fix it for you." I go, "No, So I had my back to the curtain.
She had a sewing kit.
Yeah, she did have a sewing kit. But I stood up on stage the entire night with my back against the curtain, and I didn't even go out on a dance floor.
He would just shuffle off the stage with, and we'd be out at the bar getting drinks, sort of talking to people, and Alex wouldn't leave. And I don't know why he wouldn't let her sew his suit up.
Why didn't you, Alex? Here's your opportunity. Nice. It's Ramota.
I was actually shy back then, embarrassed, right? What was I there? Probably 19 years old or 20, and it split right down the middle.
I'm going to throw a few more pictures up on the screen. Guys, sure. Some are going to be repeats because they're so good. So good talking about split pants. How about short shorts like that?
There you go.
I don't know who that is. Somebody
no.
put it out,
Blame somebody else. All right. So this was probably at Libertyville too. This was Youth Days, right?
Yes.
And that's Orkestar Soko. And then here you guys are again.
Now I got the short shorts. So if you could pause that picture for a second.
Pausing. Go ahead.
My good friend, Mr. Danny Danilovich, is right to my right with a fisherman hat on. So, Danny, shout out to you there.
Sitting in the hat right there, right in the middle. Bravo. It's amazing. All right. So we showed a few other pictures. And tell me about, this is from the Mihailovich wedding.
Mihailovich wedding, right, at the house.
At the house. This was like a scoop or drugi dan?
The same thing.
This is right after he shot the shotgun on his front porch in his boxers.
How did you not get a picture of him in the boxers?
We were too scared.
We didn't have a camera.
No cell phone camera.
Oh my! That would have been all over the internet and it would have gone viral. I'm sure if it was today, right? tell me, I know we're slowly creeping up to the end, but I'm going to play a few clips. Let's do a few clips of Soko. And can you guys just give me a little bit of an intro of where these clips were made or taken? Do you remember what you sent me? Or do you want to talk about it after?
Are you talking about video clips?
Yes.
Okay, so those were done. Basically, our last performance together at Redwood Drive for New Year's Eve on January
1st, 87.
87. Correct. December 31st. Correct.
The official one is January 1st, 1987.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. First clip that I got from them. Orkestar Soko back in the day. Uživajte. Guys, ready to go back in time? What do you think of that, guys? What do you think of that?
Very nice. Very nice. Thank you.
Just a couple clips. Now, I have a couple clips where I'll play them all right now. We don't have too many of them, so let's take a look at a few more, huh? I think the next one is a song, maybe some singing, maybe. Bobby Balatovich singing away. Guitar player, drummer, singer. I mean, Bobby.
What song was that?
I don't know.
We couldn't hear it. I didn't know.
Oh, you couldn't hear it? Well, let's take a look at this. So, Grad, was that you like on that keyboard?
Yeah, that was me.
So let's just remember, we used to bring this keyboard to almost every job, and that keyboard probably weighed about 150 pounds by itself.
Yeah, the piano. Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah, two keyboards,
Oh,
piano, and then like a synthesizer on top.
Hey, so let me ask you a question. When did the keyboards? You had that from the early on, or when did you get the keyboards, Grad? When did you incorporate keyboards with Soko?
Probably when George joined the band, George Mihailovich.
Mm-hmm.
At that point in time, I got keyboards.
Why? Why do you think? Was there a sound changing? Was it getting more electronical? I mean,
No. I never used it for Serbian music, except for some Zabavne songs.
Okay.
But it was just strictly for American music that we got it for. But yeah, I would never. I don't like that synthesized sound for Serbian music.
Oof.
To me, that's like I don't know.
It went that way. It just
and I know it went that way, and so no, we never used it for colos or anything like that.
All right. Well, what I'm going to do is take a quick break. We're going to play Aniška Banja from Orkestar Soko that you guys sent over. Guys, go ahead, grab some drinks. Well, non-alcoholic beverages, please. for the remainder of the event. And then, Bobby, you're the exception to the rule. You can go ahead and get whatever
Thank
you
you.
want. Ipaksi Naimlachi. You are the youngest, my friend. So
Thank you.
we're going to do a quick Nishka Banya by Orkestar Soko, and we'll be back in a minute. Whoops.
I was gonna say. That was get your ass back here.
Oh my goodness. Orkestar Soko live. Let's go back. Now let me get out of the screen here and get you guys back on. There they are. Oh,
Really? Really nice.
Nazdravlja, živi bili.
I am a bad influence.
Cheers to everyone.
There's no corona, huh?
No.
More corona today and nowadays, huh?
Not
Tell
allowed
me-
in this town.
Neka. We're moving towards the end of Soko, right? And your peak was mid 80s. You've played everywhere. You've been everything. You've added Alex. You've added Bobby. I got one more story that Nick wanted to share that he posted. And let me just get that back up here. Kaže ovako. Nick kaže, come on, brother. I was with you when you purchased your first Gibson. Custom. I'm not going to go into detail here on the cost, but you cannot purchase a case for what you paid back in the day, bro.
I remember that, Nick. Biasco
Wow.
Music on Belmont.
On Belmont, on the north side?
On the north side, Biasco Music.
Look at that. Stefan says, great to hear these fun stories, Dad and Chica.
That's my son.
How old is he now?
He's 30.
Hi, Stefan.
Bravo, maestre. Strechko. Sabayat says, I remember just being close to stage and watch Grad and Alex. I had to try and remember the songs by memory, which was hard. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Sergio.
Helen Aruño comes in. She goes, nice tellas, boys.
Hi, Kuma.
And here we go. Michelle Popovich comes in and says, wherever Soko was, we followed.
Thank you, Michelle.
Mirjana Todorovic. We know her very well. She says, na zdravlje with your drinks.
Živela Popadija.
And the story that I was going to share with Nick said, when Orkestar Soko was first started and began the concept of the band, came from my cum Doug Ivanovic and Shumadia from Milwaukee. They were one of the best Serbian bands that ever existed. I always enjoyed watching them perform as a boy growing up and wanted to be them one day. Doug, Grad, we did it, guys. I wouldn't trade those days for anything in my life. That comes from Nick.
You got it, Nick.
Likewise, Nick.
So a lot of history, a lot of memories, a lot of zabave, a lot of picnics. And as we move into the 80s, tell me a little bit about your businesses and your careers. They are slowly advancing. You're getting older. When did you guys get married? And we'll start with Bobby. Bobby, you're the youngest. You can start this time. I feel bad. Brad keeps getting nailed with the first question every time. So, Bobby, when did you get married? What year did you wind up getting married?
I married in 1991.
1991. Mr. Trulovich?
I got married in 1994.
94. Doug?
1982.
1982. And Grad?
1984.
1984. So, you two guys in the band get married as the band is peaking. Life can't be any better than that, right? There's gigs, there's events, your careers have started, you've gotten married, right? How does that now, 1986 comes and what happens that you begin the discussion of, well, it's time to move on with our careers? How does that play a role now towards the end of the Soko days?
Well, I could say for myself that at that point in time, I had gotten married in 84, bought a house, had a business that was trying to, push ahead. And it was really difficult to play Saturday, Sunday, get home Sunday or Monday morning at 2 a.m. and get up at 7 and go to work and be 100%. So, it was that type of thing where things just got too busy. You had a wife, you had a home to worry about. You had all kinds of different things going on, especially when you own your own business. That's just a lot of stuff going on.
Sure.
So, and I wanted to go out at a level, on top. I didn't want to wait till we couldn't practice and we couldn't add new material to the repertoire. So it just got to a point where I think we were playing one evening and Bobby and I kind of looked at each other and it's like, let's just wrap this up. And I think Alex and Doug wanted to continue. And but for me, it was
they did.
and they did, yeah. but for me, it was just time to wrap it up, and it was. There's a time and a place for everything. It was a great experience. We met so many great people, everywhere, and it was just time to hang it up, because I just felt that we, couldn't go any further. Didn't have the time to put more time into it to get further. So
Sure.
It was just the right time for me.
So how does the conversation take place? You sit down, the rest of the guys say, Grad says, Mumsy, I think I'm done. Right?
I think it was just we're like,
Can't hear you. Again, microphone. Yeah.
I think it was just like, well, let's just finish up the jobs and that we have booked. And I think it was like midsummer that we made that decision, and we had jobs until New Year's Eve. And I think we had a couple weddings after that we had to finish off. But for the most part, we didn't take any new bookings.
Doug, you want to tell me how that conversation went and your thoughts on it?
Well, I met my wife Vesna in Indiana, in Northwest Indiana. She was from Svetilia in 1978. We dated for like 4 years, and we got married in 1982.
Mm-hmm.
And 4 years later, after we got married, I was working. I got a job. I was working, and we were playing on the weekends. And I got a. Our wives supported us. They went to every dance that they could, with us, and stayed out late and all that kind of stuff, which was sometimes, difficult. And then in 1986, my son was born, Alex. And that also for me, meant that, I wanted to spend more time with my family. And I didn't really continue playing for like over 10 years. And then,
Wow.
we started up again with Alex.
Alex, how did this conversation?
My cool Alex.
Cool, Alex. Yeah, that's what happens here, right?
Yes.
How did you take that whole conversation? Were you taken back or surprised by it?
Well, I shouldn't say I was surprised by it, but I had another outlook on it. From 87 to current today, I just continue to actually play. It's in my blood. I was very sad to see that we weren't able to continue as Soko. So, I still had wanted to play, and if at that point in time, I just went to second plan B, and I just continued playing.
Bobby, were you a part of that conversation, or were you on the side?
Me and Grad I used to spend the afternoons by him at the office, and I could just tell. I mean, he's just busy. He's got stuff
Right.
going on, and you could just tell. He couldn't put, they were very disciplined. All of these guys, I'm not going to say I was, but these guys were distant. We're going to practice. Even like you say, at the height of all this, these guys wanted to practice. I was like, well, what time are you coming over Friday? Don't be late. You got to be there. I mean, it went on like that, and then they got married, kids, and it was just time. And I understood it.
So the conversation takes place. Tell me.
I don't think that we all had a conversation together.
Okay, so you just knew.
Yeah.
And then we're going to finish out the gigs, and that last gig was December 31st, 1986, or January 1st, 1987. Kako come. Glass is half full, glass is half empty. Doesn't really matter. It's the same night in question, right? I needed to ask you a question. You guys, at one point during this peak, became almost the resident band at Holy Resurrection Serbian Orthodox Cathedral on Redwood Drive.
Yep.
How did that link up, and how did that begin? Because I think that's very sure.
Well, I remember that we went up to Marko, I forget his last name, Vucenovic. He was the hall president at that point in time.
He was.
And so this is the first time, before the first time we were going to play for New Year's Eve.
Mm-hmm.
And we told them, we'll bring the crowd. We'll bring the people in. And, I guess he had to deal with the board or whoever made that decision, but they were kind of leery about hiring, they were always would get these singers and other bands in. And we told him, he said, if you don't get the crowd that we're telling you you're going to get, you could pay us less. I don't know. I don't remember the details, whatever. Mm-hmm. But it was that kind of deal. It's like, we're going to guarantee you're going to have a full house.
Because you just knew, right?
Well, we didn't, I don't know if we knew, but we were kind of, hedging our
You wouldn't have made the deal, Grad, if you didn't know, right? Come on, you're being honest here. Soko was on fire. Soko was a very popular band. And during the peak days and, whatever, you were able to guarantee Biche Puno.
So after, he did hire us, he agreed to it. And then once the event happened, I don't think we finished the first set and he came to hire us for the following year. So then I think we played New Year's there for quite a few years. Every year, it was just a given. New Year's Eve.
Yeah, he wanted to hire us for the next 4 years in a row. He's like, as long as I'm in charge here, you guys are going to play. So, but he was a very organized guy. Very, they
ran a tight ship.
Yeah, very organized.
But also, I think him and Janet Spokojny, that group really did make it work. Back in the day, and I just remember hearing that we don't use the word residents for a band, right? Use it for a DJ, right, Bobby? But you guys really were resident, the resident band. If you're practically always there, especially for the Nova Godina, like you said, for many years after that. How did they take the news that December 31st, 1986 was going to be it? Who broke that news to them?
I don't remember.
It wasn't me.
I don't remember, to be honest with you.
Guys, tell me something. You're playing, you're popular, you're good. That clean sound that we talked about earlier. Why not ever come out with a song of your own? Did you ever think about that?
The only thing to write a song on your own is pretty difficult. We used to put a lot of colos together on our own, just take a little bit from one from another and kind of do that. But the only thing that I regret is that we didn't go into a studio and record when we were at our peak. We have some of these sound bites and, from old tape recorders and just stuff like that. But we never had the time and that's one thing that I do regret is we never went in and did a recording when we were at our peak.
Tell me, as far as requests go, do you remember what the most requested songs were back in the day?
Chicken.
The infamous chicken
call. Tell me, what was the longest call you've ever played?
I think we played it at St. Sava's. It was a long call, and I want to say it was chicken. I can't be 100% sure if it was chicken amongst other colos.
I think we did a compilation.
In the compilation. But I think that colo lasted for anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour. And we were enticing the people that started to finish it. So some people did and some obviously couldn't.
There were a lot of sweaty people after that.
Somebody came up with the idea of like a dance colo marathon. And that's what it turned into. So I don't remember who that was. I think maybe Pete Mullen. Yeah.
So tell me about Soko, Orkestar Soko. Come and tell me about this picture right here.
So what that is the South Chicago anniversary, the 50th anniversary, where Soko played amongst other bands for free for the church out there. I believe that was in 2012 or 15.
Mm-hmm. So
2015. Okay. And we had played I think one set as Soko, and then we had played a set as Shumadia and other bands were there. Obviously, United Serbs, Mulados was there.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's anybody else,
even Mike Sudrum showed up to play.
Mike Sudrum came for that
drums. So he
From
came
Florida.
from where was he? Florida. Yeah. So that was we haven't seen him for years, so that was really pretty nice. So
The
I just got to say, Milo Stavanovich was still the farthest traveling. He was somewhere in the Mideast, and he came back. And his only request was, "Can I play chicken?" So God bless you, Milo. I love you.
that was a song for many generations, and I think
Yep.
it hit a lull, that chicken cola, and then it came roaring back, right? Because I hear it now being requested at folklore festivals again that I play. So so about an hour, you said? Is that what the longest cola was, right?
Yes.
Tell me, guys, just a few more questions. I'm just curious. I'm nosy, really. Did you guys have a favorite song you like playing? Bobby, any favorite songs?
Yes, I like playing any shot of planino song type beat because Grad used to do these solos in it,
Mhm.
and they were so melodic, and these guys used to change chords, and it just, to me, it was phenomenal. I used to love it before when I just listened.
Sure.
I thought it was great.
Mr. Chulovich?
No, actually, I like everything.
Oh, you don't have one favorite that sticks out? No?
No, I don't.
Боже мой. All right. Doug?
On that Sharplani, though, that Bobby's referring to, we used a lot of echo on that, and it also made it sound like you're in a planina, where it would like echo, hit the other mountain, and come back. So there was a lot of play with that. So that was sort of cool.
It was very cool, and this was back 30 years ago.
Yeah, where they used an actual tape echo that would actually tape the sound and then play it back a few milliseconds later to give you that echo effect.
Before your time. Look at it before you were before
Before all the digital stuff.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
That's got to be a pain in the neck too, right?
Yeah, it was a big box, and you had to make sure that this tape, after a while, it got stretched out, and you have to replace it. And
That's cool stuff.
Yeah, well, hey, you made it work. That's what matters, right? Grad, any favorite song?
you know what? Nothing really comes to mind. I enjoyed, like Bobby said, some of those Sharp Planino and Aidayano and stuff like that. And you got a chance to improvise a lot. And so that was pretty cool. I enjoyed playing that, but I enjoyed all of it. I mean, from, like I said, from the Serbian music to the American stuff that we played. I mean, we would play some wedding where there's, some Italian people. So you'd learn a couple Italian songs, we played some polkas or Greek music or, stuff like that. So it was all good.
Any event come to your mind as the most favorite event you've ever played with Soko?
Redwood Drive.
Which time?
What was it? Was it when we played Prince? Was that?
Oh, no. I think probably you mentioned earlier the aha moment. There was a dance that we played in Joliet, and this was probably when we were, I thought, at our peak because the Serbian stuff sounded great, and then Bobby comes in, a couple weeks before that, and he says, "Yeah, we're gonna do When Doves Cry by Prince." And we're like, what? And so then, he's showing me the chord progressions, and we put this thing together and we played it there, and it came together, and it was just amazing. And the crowd just loved it. So for me, I thought that was like one of our top performances.
So it was Joliet.
Joliet. Yeah, it was Joliet.
Doug, Alex, would you agree with that? Do you have another?
That wasn't my favorite just because my amp blew up exactly on that song. Like right toward the end, it just like went up in smoke.
It happens.
Yeah. There was a lot of people there. I mean, you couldn't like throw, a grain of rice when they hit the floor, because there was like people were like this, and we kept like cranking the volume, and I don't know. It was probably just a bad fuse, but
sure.
So I think, for the things that I enjoyed the most is like when we would play an SNF function and people from out of state would get to hear Soko who haven't heard Soko. Okay.
Sure.
People from PA, people from Ohio, people from Canada, especially, and I just enjoyed performing overall all genres, all songs for all those people.
Guys, you come to a close. Tell me a little bit about what you're doing now, where you're at, and you said you were married. Let's just see how many kids came out with that marriage. Let's start with Doug. Doug, your turn. Brate.
Well, we've been married 38 years.
Ow.
Which sounds like a very
Nice.
long time, and enjoyed every minute of it. And we have 2 kids, Alex and Christina. They're both married, and I have Alex has 2 kids, which I enjoy more than anything. And my daughter has 1 little one and 1 on the way. And we were just there visiting her a week ago.
Mr. Mihailovich,
Sir.
where are you? What do you? Well, what do you? Real quick, Doug. What do you do? What are you doing nowadays?
I'm still in construction. We build homes.
Bravo.
And
Bobby, go ahead. No,
that's okay. Go on.
no. It's okay. Go ahead.
I play games for a living. I work at a casino.
That's it, buddy. You had a few months off, I take it.
I loved it. I'm going to be honest with you. I loved it.
So you're in the hospitality industry, and tell me what was the case? You're married, and how many kids again?
Married, 2 daughters, Angelina, Ariana, and 2 grandsons, Liam and CJ.
And we have a picture of them. I'm going to join that picture right there. There they are.
Yeah, buddy.
The Balatovich clan right there. Svaka Trust, Bobby and Grad.
Well, I've been married 36 years with my lovely wife, Stana, who I met at a Serbian wedding at St. Sava in Indiana, probably 40 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
We had 3 kids, Stefan, Sonia, and Eva. Stefan is 30, Sonia is 28, and Eva is 18, going on 19. And she is a freshman or sophomore actually in college. And I'm still in the travel business, and that's about it.
Cool.
Living the dream.
Aren't we all? Aren't we all? But all. And last but not least, Mr. Trulovich.
Mr. Chulovich was married since '94, still am. Very happy to my lovely wife, Maria.
Chestito.
My daughters, Andriana and Alexa, who are 19 and 17. Fantastic kids. And I have been in logistics and supply chain since 1984. So that's my field.
Gentlemen, I first and foremost would like to say hvala vama. Thank you for taking the time tonight to speak to myself and to all of those that want to know about the history of Orkestar Soko. You know, in previous conversations, it's come up almost in every conversation. So you really have left your mark on the Serbian music scene here in the diaspora, Chicago, and the country, believe it or not. It's a very important piece, I think. And I can only say thank you, Otsebe, for carrying that baton another 2 decades, because it helped us hold on to that identity. And we have the best of both worlds by living here with the Serbian music and the English music, which is what you guys incorporated in your styles. So for me and my kids and my family, hvala vam, otsrca. And I think many people will echo that sentiment about what I just said. We're going to put a few more comments on here. Mileva Gligic Savic says, God bless you all. Thank you for sharing these memories. They live in all of us. Jovan Kangraga says, great job, guys. It was great hearing all your stories and your journey. Alexander Tomic comes in and says, bravo. To, ljudi. Srečko says, excellent interview. That's because of you guys, not because of Spaz. Let me tell you that. Denise Kangraga says, thank you for what you have given to our lives. Živeli. Sonia says, bravo, great band in my day. Živeli. Mirjana Todorovic is still with us. She says, thank you, gentlemen. And laku noć. Here's a living legend himself. Vinko Mancic says, awesome job, Spaz and Soko. Ms. Vashkovich says, thank you, Spaz. Thank you guys for so many great times and memories. And Sandy Ivanovsky says, great times, bravo. This is just a piece of, just an example, a small example of really the legacy you guys left. Šta drugo reći? Osim, kao što sam i rekao ostalima, živjeli na mnoga ljeta. To you and your families.
Hvala, Spaz. Thank you very much.
Thanks for doing it, Spaz.
To you and your families, I wish all the best, and maybe, God willing, if there is an opportunity in 2021 or 2022, a potential maybe reunion.
Yeah, they're coming out of retirement. They don't know it yet. Yeah.
And if that's the case, I would hope that you all at least would consider it and join us when we do that. And I think it's something that it's a project that I'll be working on because it's very personal to myself. Kaže Dušan Ivančević, a very tight, unique sounding band. Thanks for the memories. We were talking about that sound, guys.
Thanks, Quinn.
Thanks, Dušan.
Any final words? Any final remarks for all our gosti and our people? Guys, closing remarks. It's all you. Who wants to start? Let's go. You choose. Zakrai.
I'll start. I just want to say I appreciate everything that you did, Spaz. I appreciate the audience that had time this evening to actually listen to this. I appreciate the audience over the last years from 76 for me to 87. Excellent information here, and I hope everybody enjoy themselves. Thank you.
Got a little bit of anybody else want to chime in, guys? You're not shy, are you?
Thank you, everybody, for listening. But I'd also like to thank these three because they were at that point in time when I was growing up. They were right there for me, and they helped me out. They were not only just music mates; they were friends, and I appreciate it.
One last picture, huh? You see that? Is this from like a New Year's Eve event or probably the last performance?
Redwood Drive, last performance.
With that, I'm going to say, draga braćo, hvala mi još jednom, laku noć, doviđenja, and good night, and we will end it as we typically do with a chicken kolo. Jel može?
Može.
Može,
Thanks,
hvala.
Spaz.
Živjeli ljudi.
Everybody.
Thank you. Laku noć.
Hvala. Ćao.
I mean, so it has a lot of hiss, but it's 4.
So when you watch that DVD,